Final Fantasy XVI erases every trope known to this franchise, from the combat, to the minigames, to the party structure, to the tone, to the world map, to almost everything to do with a mechanical standpoint in this franchise. It truly is an unrecognizable Final Fantasy game, so intent on breaking free of the shackles of its predecessors, it's right there in the tagline: "The legacy of the crystals has shaped our history for long enough." It's literally saying we are sick of being forced to follow the constraints set in Final Fantasy I, where the Warriors of Light sought to restore the crystal's power, and Final Fantasy XVI paints these crystals as a source of evil that blights a burgeoning beautiful land, in a story that is set to be told on its own terms, not under the foot of a ginormous franchise. The only way they could have been more clear is if they dragged out Hironobu Sakaguchi and hit him with a Mega Flare. But they didn't erase everything the past games have set up. There's one tradition they didn't break, and goddammit if it wasn't the one I was hoping they would: the protagonist. If Final Fantasy protagonists were made in a factory, the default settings would be spiky hair, a traumatic past, and a lone wolf. For an installment that claimed some pretty bold things about the new direction it was taking the franchise, I wondered how far they would go with it. The demo gave me lots of promise. Clive was duty-bound, honourable, and chivalrous, and of course I knew this wasn't going to last. But I thought I would watch his disillusionment grow after the shock of his mother's betrayal. Seeing Clive turn into this grizzled monster and adjust to being a slave and watch his hatred grow. Basically, I thought I was going to see the Final Fantasy version of Ghost of Tsushima. Alas, all that character development is skipped as we transition towards our regular Final Fantasy protagonist tropes. And I've got to say, it's never worked better. Clive treats the world how it treats him. He's not alone in his downtroddenness, and his spite and isolation fit so well with Final Fantasy XVI's new tone. I was always jarred by how edgy the Final Fantasy protagonists were at the beginning of the game, when the world around them seemed quite joyous, 6 and 7 notwithstanding. But now, unbound with a mature rating, Square Enix can show in graphic detail the world that twisted a once kind boy into a revenge-addicted fiend. The horrors that Clive has gone through may be skipped, but in later scenes we see just how cruel Valsithia can be, far more than was even slightly implied in past Final Fantasy games. Final Fantasy XVI touts how we will follow Clive through 3 distinct periods of his life, with that third one remaining quite the mystery. I won't spoil it, but I was disappointed with the lack of leap taken when compared to the complete 180 of the first time skip. The theme of the first time skip was a rapid descent into madness from riches to rags for our protagonist, and with the mature rating, I wondered if they would go even further and make Clive some sort of monster. I won't call Clive my favourite Final Fantasy protagonist, because once again he's hopelessly outshined by the supporting cast. Another franchise tradition unbroken, but he's undoubtedly the most fitting protagonist, who went through an experience I thought till now only George R.R. Martin was capable of putting a character through. I love how his mission is, in essence, destroying the crystals that shaped this franchise for so long, perhaps indicating that future protagonists won't follow the same stereotypes. Final Fantasy XVI is not a Final Fantasy in any sense. That's not a good or bad thing, but I applaud the fact that they're trying to change after so long. But Final Fantasy is incapable of leaving behind its precious spiky-haired anime boys, whose iterations have shaped the minds of so many players. In this regard, I'm glad that Final Fantasy XVI held on to some semblance of the past, because it works better than ever now.